Angares says there is a need to pay more attention to the situation of out-of-school youth due to their growing number. Based on data from the Education Department, close to 4 million students were not able to enroll for the current school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Senator Gatchalian is urging the Department of Education to conduct a nationwide assessment of all learning materials to correct those with errors.
Ang DepEd, nung malaman ito, ay kagyat na nag-investigate, tinukoy kung saan nanggaling, at ngayon ay pinull out na natin yung activity sheet na yon, and may mga pagko-correct na tayong ginagawa. Dahil ang ating ginagawa ngayon mula first quarter, kapag merong mga modules na may mali, pinupull out natin, kino-correct, and then nililinaw at iwinawas ito sa ating mga bata.
It's been 5 months since more than 24 million students went back to school in October last year and faced the difficulties of distance learning under extraordinary situations. But what were the takeaways of the students from the quality of their learning materials, and how will they move forward in their continuing education?
Meanwhile, the government's enforcement of price ceilings for 60 days on pork and chicken in Metro Manila prompted traders to stop selling because of the high cost of transportation and production. The government is appealing to the public to eat other sources of protein in the meantime. But how will government resolve this crisis under the threat of African swine fever and working Filipinos who complain of the high prices of commodities? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs.
Welcome to this Monday edition of The Chiefs. And of course, with us tonight on set is Robbie Lampay of One News. And online, we have Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5. And coming online in a few minutes will be Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. Lucy, Robbie, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Hello, happy Monday.
Yep. Well, Lunes na Lunes, nag-holiday ang baboy.
Buti pa sila. Buti pa sila. Yan ang comment.
Pero hirap na hirap talaga yung mga magbababoy, no? Talagang
Yes.
they really don't know where to go. On the one hand, talagang shortage. Kanina doon sa balita sa Big Story, even the retailers were defending the middlemen, were defending the suppliers and saying, hindi, mukhang mataas talaga yung...
Parang hindi nagtutugma yung mga numbers ng DA.
Hindi talaga.
Hindi talaga.
But if you listen to DA, it's the dealers who are making a profit. If you listen to the producers,
Yes,
parang
wholesale.
hindi naman daw. It's all market driven. We have Ami Pamintuan now online from the port area.
Ay, baboy pa rin.
Baboy
the pig. Talaga puro yan ang istorya.
Kamusta yung mga talipapa? Kamusta yung mga karindera dyan sa likod ng opisina nyo? May ulam ng baboy?
Beef na may arroz caldo yun, saka beef pares yun.
Kasi
Beef muna kayo.
dati may kainan sa likod ng Star. Aristobac ba yung tawag doon?
Hindi, Starbuck. Yung anak ba?
Sorry, nung panahon ko kasi wala pa Starbucks. Okay. Aristobac. Anyway, sige. Well,
Teka, balik-balik
balik tayo sa
sa
natin.
pork holiday. Okay.
Well, of course, we are going to talk about the prices of pork and the supply of pork. But before we go into that, our first topic for today will be, of course, distance learning. We've had quite a rough first 3 months with the distance learning, with a lot of modules being problematic. And for our first guest tonight, we bring in the committee chairman of the Senate Committee on Basic Education, Senator Gatchalian. Sir, maraming salamat for joining us and welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to our televiewers.
Good
evening.
Senator.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good
Well,
evening, Chief.
Sir, I do remember last month you were already expressing concern over what you termed as a possible crisis in learning. Tapos ito, the past few days, mukha na namang may umusbong na panibagong problema with the learning modules. And it's not the first, of course, as we know. Pero po kayo, as chairman po ng committee, I know it's a bit too early, first 3 months, but how would you assess where we're headed in this experiment we call distance learning? Are we going to end up writing off the whole school year o hindi naman?
Well, this I can say with certainty, it's going to be very challenging and close to impossible to get good grades this time around. Because even before the pandemic, we've seen a lot of the international results coming in, PISA, TIMSS, and the Southeast Asian PLM. All of them pointed to one direction. We were last, or we were at the very tail end of the spectrum. Everything was pointing towards a very dismal performance of our learners.
But
So
to be
this
fair,
is prior
yeah.
to the pandemic.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So now we're in the pandemic and there's no face-to-face learning. Everything is done through modules. We don't have this. We don't have online learning. The notion of our students using computer is non-existent because almost 80% is through self-learning modules. So having said that, learning and teaching is being done remotely through self-learning module, and that is very challenging. Imagine teachers cannot explain fully and students cannot understand fully because there's no communication on a daily basis.
Yeah, and many parents are not in a position to teach. Either
Correct.
they're out of the house or they're just not competent enough. No? So I'm wondering just how much dependence there is on the self-learning modules. No?
Well,
Have you run the numbers on this? How many students are actually left to themselves to determine whether or not the modules are actually teaching them the right thing?
This is a classic cliche, Luci, of better than nothing. It's better than letting our kids just sit in their homes and do nothing. So we're struggling, definitely. But on the brighter side is our teachers are very determined to bring education to the homes. And our parents are trying their best to teach your children. You're absolutely correct, Luci, because I talked to some mayors in Mindanao and they were saying, paano magtuturo yung mga parents? The parents didn't even graduate elementary. No? So it's very difficult for them. But the mayors, the teachers, and the community themselves are trying very hard to make sure that their children is somehow absorbing the self-learning modules and the lessons they need to learn. But like I said, don't be too optimistic at the end of the school year. There are periodic assessment, but we will have a end of the year assessment, and I'm very edgy about the results of this assessment.
I mean, Senator, buti nabanggit niyo yan because that was actually my question. I mean, as you said, it's too early. We need to finish the term. We need to finish the school year and then do a post-mortem, do an assessment on how exactly this went. But I don't know how to phrase. But what exactly you yourself? What are you bracing for? Worst case and best case. What are you bracing for? Will we see what our children actually learned or not?
DepEd reduced the number of competencies by close to 60%. So meaning what's left for students to learn are the most essential competencies, the competencies that they need to learn in order to move to one grade level. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is nobody learns because it's very difficult even to absorb. For example, just imagine teaching a grade 10 students of trigonometry or basic statistics through remote, through self-learning modules, and I've seen it. I went to a couple of homes in here in Valenzuela to observe how children learn through self-learning modules. It's very difficult. And if they want to access their teachers, it's through Facebook Messenger or through text. It's very difficult to explain through text. Imagine explaining trigonometry through text.
Eh, kami nga nasa classroom, college na kami nun. Wala pa rin kami nakakuha sa trigonometry.
Kaya nga eh.
Ikaw lang yon, Toby. Next.
Nagdaraglagan na. Okay.
Senator, midway na tong school year And are you still calling for a review of the materials? Kasi inaamin naman DepEd na marami nga daw mga errors at saka they are actually encouraging people to report para daw makorek along the way,
This is
Kaya
actually...
mako-correct and eto na yung vaccine. Baka mamaya next school year pwede na tayong mag face-to-face or limited face-to-face anyway.
Yeah.
Do you still want the modules corrected? Kasi baka nga hindi na magamit din yung mga yan by that time.
But the way teachers are correcting the modules, it's not the entire modules. No? So what they do is they just give out a piece of paper and write the corrections there. Of course, the reach is another matter, no? But they have a way of correcting. But actually, this is quite the questionable. What's happening is quite questionable because all divisions they have a quality assurance mechanism.
Yeah.
Now, for example, a division of Valenzuela, meron silang quality assurance mechanism, and that's why I'm quite. I don't know what's happening in our divisions, why this type of errors are coming out. But it goes to show also how the makers of these modules and their concept of quality and their
Yes.
concept of what they are learning is also not up to par, especially when it comes to equality, when it comes to stereotyping. The notion of stereotyping, maraming reklamo is about stereotyping. Eh.
Yeah.
The latest is being Igorot, being one of the
Ah.
indigenous tribes being stereotyped. And the notion of that, no, is quite questionable in our divisions, and this is something that we need to investigate because it's.
And Senator, this is particularly one obviously big and fundamental problem that I think with everything else, the public is understanding. We managed our expectations. But when it comes to education materials, it's almost as if, look, wala naman to kinalaman sa COVID eh. Di ba? We were producing our materials long before. And in fairness to this administration, it's not just this administration. We've been seeing these things long before memes were invented, long before social media was invented. What is the root? What is at the root of this, of the people producing the material and the lack of quality? Because it's all been bandied about, and I think there's basis to it. People are saying, the system is corrupted. The system has been compromised, and basically these are the same suppliers na prente na. Sobrang saya na sila, and it's very hard to dislodge a supplier. What is really at the root of this?
That's a very accurate question and a very good question, Robbie. In fact, we've been spending so much time on this topic. And the simple answer to that is teacher quality and teacher education. In fact, we have great teachers. No? Our teachers are committed, dedicated. They really try their best to deliver education to the homes. But they're only as good as the education that they get during college. And this is where the problem is. No? And in fact, there's a huge discussion now in the Senate and in the academe on how to improve teacher education at the pre-service or at the collegial level, because it's affecting also the in-service or the teachers teaching our students. So it's a continuum, meaning we have to teach them properly at the college level. So when they enter the workforce, this is in DepEd, it's when they enter the workforce, they have the proper knowledge, and we're confident that they are trained well and they know the materials that they have to teach our children, and also basic concepts like stereotyping, all of these things they have to learn during the college phase.
But the irony of it is teachers are now licensed. I mean, there was a time when teachers were not even licensed. And I would have to say, I grew up in an environment where teachers were actually very, very competent. And now, unfortunately, I mean, I've seen my kids go through, through school, and I have to say that there has been a marked deterioration even in the quality of teachers. So when the government started requiring licenses for teachers, I expected at least an increase in quality. What happened to that? Is that really something that works?
Just to give body to that comment, Luci, just to give you very quick numbers. The passing rate for licensure examination for teachers for the last probably seven years is only about 30%. No? In fact, it's easier to become a lawyer than to become a teacher. No? And the reason for that is because the knowledge that they are getting in college in the pre-service level. We have to make sure that they're trained properly, and we have to make sure that only qualified teachers, teachers with high aptitude, will become teachers. Unfortunately, right now, the course of education became a default course for a lot of our kids, because they know their security of tenure in government. And in fairness, we have raised the salaries of our teachers quite high already in the past 10 years. In fact, the salaries that our public school teachers are getting is higher than our private schools. So that's the default course. But unfortunately, we also want to get high aptitude teachers that have strong aptitude to become teachers and train them very well. And this is what's lacking right now in our policy. Parang pwede, but they cannot absorb it. And when they enter the licensure examination or examination, they fail. And this has been a very big problem in the professional regulation aspect of licensure teachers.
Sir, pero kung 30% lang pumapasa, bakit po yung quality is still not so good? Not as good as we want? Di ba? Parang there seems to be an inconsistency there.
Correct. There's also a very big debate now if we are testing the right, we are using the right materials to test our teachers. Right now, just to give you an idea, the CHED is a different agency that trains the teachers, and then you have PRC is a different agency that tests or assess the teachers, and then you have DepEd that uses the teachers. These are all separate agencies. And then sadly, they don't talk as often as what we want. They don't collaborate as often as we want. So there's now a sort of like a silos of a group training our teachers, a group assessing our teachers, and a group using our teachers to train our students. And they're not working as what we want them to work.
Okay.
Well, all these problems have been aggravated by the digital learning mode. And napakaraming problema lumalabas ngayon, wrong information, wrong learning, and dumadami daw yung out-of-school youth. Are you in favor of the no-fail policy, yung proposal nila na ipasala na lang lahat kasi mahirap din akong ma-assess At etong school year na to, mahirap ma-assess yung performance. Are you in favor of that?
I'm not in favor of that, Ami, because the whole point of assessing is to know the strengths and the weaknesses of our learners. And if they're weak, for example, in a subject matter, let's say reading, we help them, so that when they pass to the to the higher grade level, they can adapt to the next grade level with ease. But if we don't know where the weaknesses are, then mahihirapan siya. When he moves to the next grade level, he will have very difficult time of keeping up with that grade level, and most likely he will fail or she will fail. So it's important to pinpoint where are the weaknesses and how our teachers and our school can intervene in order to help that student.
Pero sir,
Senator,
given what you said nga na, well, problematic nga itong year na to, but this, for example, in school kasi, di ba, for 1 year you get geometry, the next year you get trigonometry. One is built on the other. Now, if you have a weak base for example, geometry this year, you'll have a more difficult time with trigonometry next year. So, going back to that po, what should we do with this school year? Would you even be open to, for example, writing off the whole school year and doing it again? Dahil in the end, there are some subjects that are built one on top of the other.
Yes, that's correct. They call it the spiral method, no? But there's the divisions in the schools are designed to look at the weaknesses of our students and help them, tutor them, launch remedial classes. For example, if they're weak in reading, they come up with reading intervention. So that's their design, and that's why before the pandemic, during normal courses, the normal school year, we can pinpoint where are the weaknesses of our students and intervene. In this case, that's possible, although it's difficult because, of course, the tutoring you need to do one-on-one or you need to do small classes, and face is not allowed yet, and that is quite difficult. But in theory, we should pinpoint where are the weaknesses, which subject matters they need to be helped, and which subject matters teachers need to intervene in order to increase the understanding of our learners.
Senator, balikan ko lang po yung question about the material that we're using, the textbooks, the modules, and so on. And when I asked kanina, what's at the root of the low quality and really the glaring, it would be funny if it weren't just dealing with our children, which actually makes it tragic. But when I asked that question, kanina, you said, that the root really is the education of our teachers. But the teachers are one sector. The ones who produce, who publish, who sell, who supply to our government are not the teachers. I mean, these are people in the business of it. That's what I really am concerned about, because, and I think this is a question of a lot of people, because while we acknowledge that there are a lot of things are hard to control or out of our control, people think, yung textbooks naman siguro na kaya natin i-control yan. I mean, that's just a few groups, a handful of groups na siguro naman their centralized work will have a huge impact without having to worry about millions of, the quality of education of millions of teachers. So gusto ko lang pong balikan yon. What is at the root of the fact that our teaching materials are really subpar and really from time to time crop up with really things that make people so dismayed?
Yeah. Well, there are two types of materials now, Robbie. The self-learning modules, which were developed by DepEd and the divisions themselves. No? And for example, in Valenzuela, we developed our own self-learning modules, and we have a quality assurance team there. It goes through a process, and they read it, they proofread it, they look at the facts, and they quality assure it. And the divisions are empowered to do that for the self-learning modules. What we're talking about are the books in general. And all the books that are being sold to DepEd go through also a process wherein DepEd also, they have their own quality assurance team. So before a book is published, it goes through a process of quality assurance, and then to look for mistakes, to look for facts, quality assurance of facts and the subject matter, and then they publish it. In some cases, the quality assurance will miss those mistakes. And I've seen some of these materials, they call it sick books, no? In which, in theory, it should have passed the quality assurance system of DepEd. But for some reason, it missed, the quality assurance team missed that mistake or missed that error that came out of the books. And that's also a cause of concern, actually. And before the pandemic, we were actually talking about this, and we wanted to look at this closely.
Okay. So, Senator Win Gatchalian, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Basic Education. Sir, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, thank you,
Senator.
guys.
Salamat, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
We will just go into a break, so please stay with us.
Retailers to end their pork and chicken holiday, as the Agriculture Department is set to address the supply shortage in Metro Manila.
The Agriculture Department is offering loans to affected vendors to help them continue with their businesses. The DA also says that there are no sanctions as of yet to vendors participating in the pork and chicken holiday.
Pork vendors are going on a holiday to protest the imposition of the 60-day price ceiling on pork. Carinderia owners also expressed solidarity with them, saying nobody should be forced to sell at losing prices.
We have analyzed this, everything. Talagang yung farm gate prices are within range. The cost of producing a kilo of hog is 105 pesos. Pagdating sa merkado, 400 pataas. So, sino po ang nagmamanipula, nagpa-profiteering po dito? It's the biyahero, it's the wholesalers.
Welcome back, the Chiefs here on One News. We are now in the final stage of our conversation. Now joining us is Department of Agriculture Secretary William Dar. Secretary Dar, welcome po to the Chiefs.
Marami pong salamat po sa pagkakataon na ito po at magandang gabi sa ating lahat.
Magandang gabi
Good evening,
po.
sir.
Sir,
Hello, Chief.
yeah, before we get into other questions, maybe a quick update on this is the first day for the price ceiling. We were reporting a lot of people basically went on strike, would rather not sell than, as they say, sell at a losing price. Let's talk about the supply first. Ano po yung situation? When do you see things being tempered, if at all?
Yeah, the supply ay meron tayong kagaya ngayon na dumating kanina umaga at nandyan na sa pier about 5,400 heads of hogs. At alam naman natin na ang Metro Manila, there is about 4,000 of hogs being slaughtered every day. So nakita namin na mayroon tayong mga supply na nandyan, dumarating every now and then, at we can see this stabilizing within the week.
Within the week, we wanted to ask because kanina, binalita rin po namin, kanina we heard you speaking in the intro to this piece na, ito yung presyo ng wholesalers, pagdating sa palengke, ganito na yung presyo, therefore it's the middlemen. But we also spoke to some retailers, and we spoke to some retailers who were actually defending everybody before them and saying, hindi, mataas talaga yung presyo sa pagkakaintindi namin. What exactly is behind the price spike?
Tama po na mayroon nagmamanipula ng presyo. Okay? Nakita natin pag-angat, pag-angat ng presyo noong December, hindi na bumaba ng January. At tiningnan po natin yan ay ang mga nagdidikta ng farm gate price ay ang mga biyaheros, mga traders. And of course, pagdating na nila sa merkado, mataas ang bigay nila sa vendors. So ito yung we are trying to unmask them and break that. And we are offering the vendors, kasi most of the vendors po, ang feedback po namin ay nakautang sa mga wholesalers dyan. At we want to now assure the market vendors na hindi po kayo ang tinutukoy po namin at magbibigay kami ng pautang sa inyo para hindi kayo nakadepende sa mga wholesalers. So back from that portion, pabalik kami, we are trying to unclog yung value chain na yan.
Sec, in your estimate po, by how much yung patong, o yung dagdag na patong pala, kasi mayroon namang regular na patong by how much po yung dagdag na patong di umano ng mga wholesalers at mga dealers? Kumbaga, by what percentage are they over-profiteering already? By your estimates?
I will give you, kasi yung price cap na binigay po natin na inapruban ng mahal na Pangulo, ay base doon sa previous prices natin ng pork. Then we adjusted a bit because of some other factors, The cost structure has evolved because of the pandemic at maraming mga pagtaas din ng mga input. So at the end of the day, ang cost structure ay tumaas na yung farm gate price. Yung break-even po, 105 lang. But presently, kagaya galing po ako sa Jansan nung Sabado, I was there for 2 days. Ang cost structure doon ay 142, 144. That's the farm gate price, farm gate. So ngayon, mayroon kaming DA transport assistance para maihikayat po natin itong mga hog raisers na magtinda continuously dito sa Manila. So yung 142, 144 sa Jensan, plus 21 pesos po ang landed cost dito na sa Metro Manila ay 165. Okay. So pag 165 at may sumalo na trader, kinatay niya lahat yung transport cost, ay ibibenta na ngayon niya sa merkado, ay doon sa Kasim mayroon siyang 65 pesos na kita.
Patong.
Sa Liempo mayroon na siyang kita na 95. So sasaluin ngayon ng vendors from a low of 35 pesos to a high of 65 pesos per kilo ang kita ng vendors. Kung ito yung masunod na yan.
Secretary, hindi ko lang po maunawaan kung bakit wala po bang asosasyon yung mga trader na yan na pwede niyong habulin? Kasi pagkausap yung mga nagbebenta sa palengke, parang ang pakiramdam nga nila, biktima sila ng mataas na presyo nga nung middlemen. Pag kinausap nyo naman yung mga hog raisers, sinasabi naman nila na anong gagawin nila? Ang mahal nga naman ng feeds, ang mahal ng transport, etc. na sila lahat ang nagbe-bear nun. Kumbaga yung overhead nila tumaas. So ang sinasabi ninyo, ang problema ay yung middleman na nagpapatong.
Tama.
Sino ho sila? At bakit hindi natin sila mahuli? Yun ang yes.
Mayroon po tayong listahan na yan at pinapa-validate natin sa NBI. Ang gawa po nila, mayroon mga ahente yan sa mga probinsya, magpapadala sila dito sa Manila at nagko-compete na sila yung mga biyahero na bumibili sa kalayunan at sila na yung nagdidikta ng mataas na presyo.
Well,
And we don't know who they are? They're faceless? They're wala?
Mayroon tayong mga listahan at kinausap na natin sila.
Okay.
Secretary, so hindi siya, you're saying price manipulation siya. Kasi ang sinasabi naman ng iba, kaya daw tight ang supply natin because of African swine fever.
Yes.
Well, ito na yung resulta ng African swine fever. There really is tightness in the supply dito sa Metro Manila, and that's why we are mobilizing hogs and pork supplies from the provinces na mayroon pang surplus. That's true. Mayroon tayo dito sa taon nito, Ami and Luchi, na potential shortfall na almost 450,000 metric tons shortfall. And that's where we will have to bring in that level. Yung nasa MAB Plus ngayon ay 54,000. MAB in quota, 54,000. Yung padagdag natin para mapunuan yung kakulangan ng supply ng pork gawa ng ASF ay nasa level na 400,000 metric tons.
Yeah.
So this will stabilize pag ito nag-start na darating itong mga supplies na augmented from importation.
Why didn't we do that
Secretary,
earlier? Why didn't we do that earlier? Why did we have to wait until prices shot up so high?
Kasi mayroon tayo pang sapat na supply at may proseso po yun. Ang proseso yun na series of consultations, may tariff commission, may MAB commission. So lahat po yun dito sa January natin inumpisahan.
Secretary, naman ng iba, artificial daw yan. Artificial to give way daw to importation,
That's not
which our local producers are opposing.
You tell them, and during the hearings sa Tariff Commission, almost everyone has accepted there is potential deficit of almost that level, 450,000.
okay. Now, Secretary, let's talk about what we intend to do to help our retailers. Nabanggit niyo po kanina, pwedeng magpautang, pwedeng maglaan ng pondo dyan, but they were also saying, kailangan namin subsidiya, at least in the short term. Is that something that you would be, that government would be open to?
Ang gagawin po natin ay yung mapaparating natin na baboy dito na para sa Metro Manila ay dapat mayroon po para sa mga vendors, hindi yung manipulated by traders.
Well, Sec, mawalang galang po pero ang sabi po kasi ng ibang grupo, for example, yung pork producers, may sariling numero at sariling mundo yung Agriculture Department kumpara dun sa kanilang mga numero at mundo. Iba kasi yung mga numbers nila eh. For example, ang sabi nila, ang farm gate nila anywhere from 200, minsan up to 250 if you factor in mortality dun sa shipping. Tapos pag sa traders and dealers na raw, umabot na yan 310 to 320. So ang retail umabot ng 360 to 370. So yun po, hindi ko kayo nagkakasundo doon sa figure, sa numero, kaya po may point of divergence. Ang hindi po malinaw kung sino po yung talagang may totoong numero.
Mayroon tayong continuous monitoring po. Ito yung latest February 1. Sa lahat ng region, national average ng farm gate price ay nasa 171. From a low of 130 to a high, may mga outliers.
Okay.
So yun po, ito yung datos na government.
In the meantime, Secretary, malinaw na ba kung hanggang kailan tong pork holiday na to?
Well, itong week na ito, parating na mas marami pa yung mga na-mobilize galing region. So hopefully makikita na natin yung tamang adjustment po.
Well,
So,
Secretary,
ano
if
naman
it's
ang
possible
kwento
po,
dun sa-
I'd like to ask you to expound a bit more on that map that you showed. No? Because kanina nga tatanungin ko, because naaalala ko dati, years back, when we were talking about rice prices and there was a crisis in rice prices, and what people were saying, walang rice shortage, meron tayong price problem. And one of the ways that people illustrated that was to show that, look sa NCR, damang-dama nyo, but look at all of these provinces na mababa ang presyo, which showed that it wasn't necessarily a complete shortage. So I just wanted to get back to that map that you're showing. What exactly are we seeing? What exactly is the bottom line of the story that you're illustrating with that map that you showed?
This map indicates that the farm gate price, kagaya po ng dito sa Region 6, Region 7, Region 9 ay nasa between 136 to 160. So mayroon din dito sa Region 3 ay 244, Region 4A. Pag in-average mo ito, mas marami yung ito na pupunta sa 171 na farm gate price.
Ano naman ho ang nangyayari sa manok? Bakit ho pati yung chicken tumataas din ang presyo? Yun ho ba supply problem din ho ba yun?
Ang manok ay ganito, some of our pork consumers are already shifting towards chicken. Alam naman natin na ang poultry industry ay na bumaba yung business gawa nung lockdown last year hanggat ngayon lang sila nakakabawi. So yung 160 is already an adjusted price so that they have enough time to recover.
So when do we expect things to normalize in the marketplace? I mean, as far as prices are concerned.
As I've said, with all the supplies regularly coming, with the mobilization that we have, itong next 2 months ay makakamtan natin itong price ceiling na yan. So eventually within this week, marami na tayong maparating that will normalize yung supply. Now, habang ginagawa yan, yung proseso doon sa kanina po sa MAB Advisory Council, in-endorse na nila, ni-recommend na po nila yung pag-increase yung volume. So yung present MAB volume ngayon, in quota ay 54,000 metric tons, ay yung with the potential shortage na almost 450,000 metric tons, so there will be additionally, yung tawag natin na MAB Plus, na almost 400,000. So ito this will go to the next step until it has reached the President for endorsement pa sa susunod. So that process continues. Hopefully, within February ay matapos na itong proseso ng MAB at saka yung pagbaba ng taripa para makaangkat na tayo. We can now start supply augmentation from the outside.
Sir, just for
Siyempre,
clarity,
Secretary, yung local producers are posting a lot of importation. Meron din bang package ang gobyerno to assist them? Lalo ngayon, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung ASF. Yan ang problema.
Mayroon po. Mayroon tayong package. Ganito. So there is a repopulation program and we have secured for the commercial hog raisers 27 billion pesos for them to access as loans na concessional rates. So ito ay available. Land Bank is 15 billion. DBP is 12 billion. Now, what about the backyard hog raisers? Mayroon rin tayong pautang zero interest. We have 500 million for this. On top of that, we have 600 million to start distributing piglets. So, mayroon po tayong programa sa hog raisers. At the same time, mayroon din insurance coverage. Yun. So, ito po for the long term, it's the local hog industry with the ASF being controlled. At nakikita po natin at the end of the tunnel, there is light. Kasi mayroon ng testing ng bakuna dito sa Vietnam at United Kingdom. So ito yung nakikita natin, just like COVID-19, na ang bakuna would be the major game changer in our fight against COVID-19. In this case, African swine fever.
Okay.
In the meantime, how do we assure everyone that the manipulators will be kept at bay, that they're not going to be the same traders dealing with the market vendors?
There is also side by side with the approval of the President to increase MAB volume, inaprubahan rin niya yung pagtatatag ng Economic Intelligence Group ng gobyerno, iba't ibang sangay ng gobyerno. Kasama na dyan ang DOJ, DTI, NBI, PNP, Philippine Competition Committee, Commission, DA of course, at National Security Council, NICA, kasama po lahat ito. So they are now moving around to have economic intelligence.
Secretary, total, we've been talking about pork, we touched on chicken, kumpletuhin na po natin yung putahe at saka mga ricados natin. Kumustahin ko lang po because we also had an item na ang vegetable growers naman natin sa Benguet, baliktad naman daw ang problema nila ngayon. May oversupply daw, may glut daw that is leading to prices are depressed for them on top of having to deal with frost. Kamusta po ang ating vegetable growers?
The vegetable growers are managing with this frost. They have a technology. Every morning they spray with tap water to thaw yung frost. Now, mayroon tayo rin sinet up na binigay na natin sa BAPTC and the Benguet State University na wala dapat yung surplus ay dapat i-processing na. So may value adding. So yun po, tututukan natin yan. We from the Department of Agriculture have even given funding to the BAPTC based in La Trinidad to buy this produce para dadalhin dito sa Metro Manila. Ganon din ang gagawin ng regional field office namin doon para mas sustain yung kita ng ating mga vegetable growers.
Pero sa palengke nga raw, sir, mahal din daw ang gulay. Or lalo na yung pangrekado. Yes.
Saan po?
Luya,
ang gulay? Ang gulay po ay kanyan, di ba nung Nobyembre binagyo tayo? So doon nagtaas, naapektuhan ang Luzon. So nagtanim nung Disyembre, umpisa na ang harvest season, Lucy.
So, dapat magmura na.
Yes,
Ganon?
yes. We will see to it, mamobilize yung mga vegetable supply sa kanayunan. Mura na. Mayroon tayong pinaparating dito sa Commonwealth na galing Bulacan na farmers cooperatives. Yung talong, yung ampalaya, 60 pesos raw. Hindi raw. Nandun ako nung dumating sila about 2 weeks ago. Sitaw, 50 pesos. So, umpisa na po ang harvest season sa vegetables.
Sir, if you don't mind, sir, balikan ko lang yung tanong kanina ni Robbie. Of course, we do remember nga yung nag-spike yung rice prices, and the reason for that being na there were people who were manipulating, specifically the businessmen. And we seem to have the same problem again now with pork prices. But people, I suppose, would be looking back to that time 3 years ago to see kung merong na sanction, na parusahan, na huli, na identify, and so on down the line, na nagmanipula ng rice prices, kasi that would set an example for pork traders now, assuming na merong nahuli.
Well, I was not here 3 years ago. I understand there were hearings even in the Senate at alam naman nila kung sino yung gumagawa.
Secretary, by Wednesday kaya may pork na sa market. Tatanong ko lang kasi maglu-Lunar New Year. Yung mga naghahanap ng pata.
Chinese New Year.
Mayroon po,
Chinese
mayroon
New
po.
Year, tsaka
Nandiyan na
Valentine's.
Hirap na hirap sila ngayong
naka-standby.
araw. Walang-wala.
Opo.
Magkakaroon na by Wednesday.
Opo.
Yan yung bisperas ng
New Year ng Chinese.
Lunar New Year. Magkakaroon na.
Yung pong nabanggit nyo na mayroong mga harvest processing, magva-value add tayo to help our farmers to clean up any glut and to support their prices. Could you speak more about that? Because doon nanggagaling yung tanong ng mga tao, di ba? How can we help pagka biglang may supply, lalong-lalo na mayroong pent-up production and biglang magkakaroon ng ganyan? Because people are still traumatized and confused every time they see, not just from Benguet, di ba? Yung mga eksena ng mga farmers who would rather throw away their tomatoes, farmers throwing away their produce. Are you saying that with the support and the programs you're putting in place, that those scenes will be a thing of the past?
Yun po ang aming gusto mangyari at nagbigay na po kami ng dagdag na tulong not only in Benguet. We also have done the same for dito sa Bamban, Nueva Vizcaya, dito rin sa Tanawan, at diyan din sa Quezon. So lahat po yun para sa Metro Manila po ito.
Okay.
Secretary, dito sa pork holiday, meron bang specific order sa inyo si President Duterte?
Well, ang utos lang na po ay yung mobilization, which we said we are doing everything possible to bring those supplies from the green zones, from the other provinces na may surplus production.
Pero yung sa pangangailangan ng mga vendor, meron ba siyang specific instruction?
Wala po, at kami ay nag-usap dito sa kay Chairman Ben Abalos, at ito yung isang sinangguni niya at tinupad naman natin na magbibigay po tayo ng pautang sa mga market vendors.
Pero sir, kasi
hindi
I
nyo
suppose
naman,
the problem would be yung mga nakatay na o napadala ng baboy dito na mataas ang presyo, what happens to that? Diba? Kasi what we're looking at is addressing the issue
last
from
week
the farm
po
gate.
yung adjustment period na dapat i-dispose nila kung ano po yung mayroon sila last week para hindi na covered dito sa umpisa ditong araw na ito.
Alright. Okay. Agriculture Secretary William Dar. Sir, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight.
Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat po.
Sa Sol.
Okay, 171 pesos average farm gate price. I think when they say farm gate price, ito yung buhay pa. Buhay pa.
Okay, tapos may patong pa yun. Siyempre.
Malayo pa yung bago dumating sa atin.
Oo. Yeah.
Kanina yung pata kanina, 400 para sa pata team namin.
Kasi
400
naman,
ang pata?
ano,
Yung may
No, but I
kasim?
think yung point niya, di ba, is that when you look at what's happening in Metro Manila, it's not necessarily what you're seeing in the rest of the country. And yun din, same to the point that we were talking about dun sa rice price manipulation before. Yun yung pinangahawakan nila na no, something's going on.
Yeah,
Something's going on
there's
here.
there are middlemen who are manipulating the prices.
Because otherwise
Yun
you
nga
would see the problem nationwide.
Pero nakakamangha nga na lagi na lang hindi makilala,
Oo.
hindi ma-identify
Tsaka,
yung mga
going back
golden
nga
men na yan.
to the rice prices
Laging
eh,
ganon,
di ba?
no?
Going back to
Laging,
rice prices
we're
eh.
gonna run after them, but who are they?
Yeah,
Who are
I mean,
they?
yeah,
Diba? And where are they?
And when that happened, to Ed's question, that was one of the things that President Duterte really said. Na galit ako diyan sa mga sa mga nagmamanipula.
So
Diba?
intelligence agencies were ordered to go after the rice cartel.
That's right.
I remember that.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you, Luchi, di ba? We keep hearing cartel, di ba? Sindikato. And you're always asking, nasan ba itong mga to? Bakit ba ang hirap-hirap ma-identify at mahuli?
Wala naman sinasabing pork cartel.
Buti pa yung mga pula, madali ma-identify.
Sabi ng mga producer, talaga lang daw
Sa
kulang
kulay
ang
na.
supply nila dahil daw sa ASF. Kasi pumunta na sa Bisaya yung ASF eh. Kaya konti yung pumupunta
Marating
sa
na
atin
rin eh.
ngayon. Yun ang sinasabi nila, nahihirapan pati sila sa logistics dahil sa flight
Yeah.
restrictions ng pandemic. Yan ang sinasabi nila. Kaya hindi rin makapanghuli. Natin,
Tapos the
Basta
secretary
parang-
was emphatic when he said that the tightness of supply was in Metro Manila. So I suppose
Kaya
that
nga.
means na
Kasi
na
nga
the rest
tayo
of the
yung
country,
kulang eh.
yeah.
Meron naman dun sa
Nationally, we have enough.
Yeah.
hindi tayo producing region eh.
Jensen nga ang magsusupply. Ganun karami yung baboy nila, di ba? Yeah.
Mahal daw yung bayad nila sa logistics. Tapos yung pa daw mga nila, cold chain nila, ginagamit daw ngayon sa vaccine. Kaya sinasabi nila.
Hindi naman
Kinukuha
negative
daw
70
ngayon
kailangan mo sa
vaccine, kaya
baboy.
kinukulas daw.
Wala pa naman bakuna eh. Nain muna nila yung baboy, no?
Nasurelo ko kanina, pinag-usapan yung bakuna tsaka yung yung...
ASF yun.
Ayan yung
ASF
segue
na
mo,
bakuna yun. ASF na bakuna.
Kaya segue mo.
Okay, we're being booted out already. It's time to go. That's it for Monday. That will be all for this Monday edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Edlin Gao.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Luchi Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News.